Well, I'll start us out. I'm Sandy Benton, and I live in the Hortonville area, but I work statewide and with learners from very little, 4K, through adult. So it looks like co-teaching with educators primarily in the classroom. Alongside them, we teach the students in their classes. Sometimes I'll be working in sessions like this where we also have folks that are in the non-formal environmental education setting as well. All right, so Sheboygan County YMCA. Um, and let's see, Pat is in Winneconne. I think Pat, you're a returning visitor. Well, I'm glad to see you here. And I do want to give a shout out to the sponsors. This Schoolyard Exploration Series is sponsored by Field Adventures, Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin, and individual donors like you. So we'll let you continue adding to the chat, and it's kind of nice for each of us to get to know each other and kind of get a visual on our mental map of where you are and who you teach. And you can keep on using that. We would like to give recognition to the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin for funding this series. So here's a little bit about that great organization.
Sandy, we don't have any audio. Do you have audio on your end?
I have audio, and I'm
Okay.
enjoying this very much.
Well,
Let me back out of this for a second, and I will change my, I will stop sharing, and I will reshare with that coming in.
they move that little checkbox around for where you find it when you share your screen,
Okay,
just to
well,
keep us
share
on
the
our toes.
sound. So, am I going to optimize for video sharing? Is that the one I
Nope.
need?
There's a little checkbox in the upper right-hand corner now, I think, that says share sound.
Okay. Let's see how this goes.
The Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin provides strategic funding, leads conservation partnerships, and connects all people throughout the state with nature. The foundation only works in Wisconsin, and we work in every corner of the state, from the North Woods to the prairies and oak savannas of the Southwest, along the Great Lake coasts and our major river systems. You name it, we support.
So you name it, we support it. You'll be finding out a little bit how I've tapped into the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin in a little bit. So again, a shout out to the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin. And let's see. And before we get started, I'd like to give a land acknowledgement. Before we start this training, we acknowledge, recognize, and respect the Indigenous people and lands we are on throughout this training. We directly recognize the American Indian nations and tribal communities, past, present, and future, as being the stewards of the land and their continued relationship to their traditional territories. In order to establish a broader insight into land, cultures, and tribal sovereignty, we acknowledge and honor the inherent sovereignty of Wisconsin's 11 federally recognized American nations and tribal communities. And on the map, you'll see the seats of government as well as the seals of each of the 11 nations, as well as the Brothertown Nation of Wisconsin. And I'm coming from Hortonville, the traditional land of the people of the Menominee. And my name is Sandy Benton. I am one of the Field Adventures team here, and you'll see all of our members from left to right. Victoria Rydberg Nania, who's on with the call. And there's me, Cheryl Chanel, who's in the Cumberland Barron area. Emily Foster Hill, who is in Madison, Wisconsin. Ashley Hegewald, who is in Wittenberg, and Beth Mittermeier, who is in Germantown. And it takes this group and others, such as yourselves, to make a field adventure possible. My name is Sandy Benton. I am with Field Adventures as a co-teacher and consultant, and it is my honor to be here with you today for Schoolyard Explorations as we focus on inquiry. And before we do that, we're going to explore some questions. Why are pollinators important? How can I teach about pollinators in my classroom or in my teaching context? This is me on my property here in Hortonville. Last spring, I was very fortunate to capture a swarm of honeybees, and they didn't necessarily want to go into my hive box right away. They spent a little time on my suit and eventually got them in, and they produced really well for us. These aren't necessarily the pollinators we'll be talking about today, but they are important nonetheless to our food production. So before we begin, you can just answer these mentally, or if you want to use the chat, you can. We're going to test your knowledge of pollinators. And this quiz comes from NEEF, so the National Environmental Education Foundation. And we'll just get right into that quiz. I didn't change it a bit. All right, so besides bees, that I just showed you, what other creatures are considered pollinators? Give you a little think time on that. Okay, 3 seconds. I'll reveal the response. Okay. Bats, birds, butterflies, and some beetles are pollinators, as well as some other insects, flies as well. All right. What do you think about this one? Do native bees occur on every plant, every continent of the planet? You can even do a thumbs up or a thumbs down with this one. Yes or no? All right, this is kind of a trick question. No, native bees occur on every single continent except Antarctica, which would be, hopefully that won't ever happen because Antarctica needs to remain frozen while it's in that position. It has no flowering plants, so there's nothing for bees to nectar on, or for pollinators to nectar there. Okay. What percentage of the fruits, nuts, and vegetables grown in the United States are pollinated by bees? A percentage. So this would be from 0 to 100%. Your best guess. What do you? All right. 3, 2, 1. 75% are pollinated, need to be pollinated, or we will not be enjoying those foods. All right, true or false? Most species of bees don't sting. So there's that negative in there that gets a little tricky, right? Most species of bees don't sting. What do you think? Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. All right. True, most do not. While all female bees are capable of stinging, most bee species native to the US live a solitary life rather than colonies, so they don't sting. They don't need to use that defense. All right. In addition to loss of habitat for feeding and nesting, why are many pollinator populations in decline? Victoria, folks are adding notes in the chat. That would be great as well. If you would report on those, that would be great. All right. Pesticides. Oh, yep. And let's see here. Climate change and harm pollinator populations that force them to move to different locations, right? And then true or false? Planting in clumps rather than single plants offers the best way to help pollinators find and use them. True or false? Getting some trues there? You are right. A variety of plants, that's important. But if you plant them in clumps, it's easier for them to find. And don't forget those nighttime pollinating plants. And last one in the quiz. Why should you avoid planting modern hybrid flowers if you're trying to attract pollinators? You can think it, especially if you're driving. Don't enter it in the text. Okay. If you said, well, creating the perfect blooms, plant breeders have left the pollen, nectar, and fragrance out of the blossoms. So the native plants for the native pollinators, they've co-evolved. They've got that relationship naturally going on there. Well, sounds like folks on the call have quite a lot of background on pollinators. Maybe there's a thing or two that you did learn or relearned, had forgotten about, as I had, especially when we think about those hybrid plants. So today I'm going to share a few school stories, some community science that kids that I've worked with have been involved in, as well as some that I have not yet tried out, but I'm strongly considering. So we're going to go from like the lowest hanging fruit, some of the things that are easiest and less resource intensive, to ones that require maybe some greater space, some expertise, maybe a few dollars as well. All right. So on the right, you'll see some of my friends at Maple Grove Charter School in Hamburg, Wisconsin, part of the Athens School District, just outside of Wausau. And one of the projects that I really highly recommend is that you get your students involved with Journey North, which is now out of UW-Madison. And here you see the second graders of Mrs. Bloom's class. They are holding it, that kind of camouflages in with the fall foliage, but here's an ambassador butterfly that the kids are part of Journey North's symbolic journey. And in that, I don't know if any of you have participated. It's open to all grade levels. There is a very small fee. I think it's $15. It's for the postage. It's kind of like a pen pal exchange, but much simpler. So in the fall, these ambassador butterflies, the kids create them, they decorate them, they get sent to Madison, and little tiny actual size paper monarchs are made by each of the kids, and they're like mixed up and they're sent south to Mexico, where schools receive these um, uh, butterflies, the good wishes of the kids in Canada and the United States. And then through this, there's a blog, and the kids in Mrs. Bloom's class, they learned where their butterfly went. They're learning about the schools and the winter habitat for the migratory monarchs. It is really great for kids to be able to track the comings and goings of the monarch butterflies, but also the cultural relevance and significance and how we're all in this together. So I highly recommend that if you haven't done it already. And if you have, you know what I'm talking about. Other projects that are specific, Journey North has other projects going on you can sign your class up for. And it is kind of a combination of GIS. You get pinned on a map as a participant. You tell a little bit about your school, put a school photo up. These are all with migratory species or check, or in the case of some plants and how they develop through their life cycle, a phenology of how spring moves northward in the spring and southward in our hemisphere for the fall. So a lot of great projects here. A lot of them have to do with monarch butterflies. So in the monarch butterflies section, there are projects where you can, that didn't take me exactly where I wanted to, but I'll go back. There are projects that have to do with saw the first adult monarch, saw the first larva, saw the first emergence of milkweed or milkweed in pods. So it's a really kind of a neat thing where you can jump into these projects, make observations, give some really important data on how climate change is impacting the natural cycles within these ecosystems. Highly recommend it. And then a new one that's been added is habitat and pollinator patches, where you can post if you have a pollinator patch, or if you plan to put one, put a picture up, pin it on the map, and use it for making observations. So highly recommend that you check that one out. Have not done that yet, the pollinator patches one with Journey North, but that is on my list of working with the kiddos in my schools this year. All right, so those really don't require a whole lot of even getting outdoors, but there certainly are some opportunities for that. I would say that yes, for making observations and reporting them, they'll need to be outdoors. But the time constraints and the money, very small. All right, so something that's a little bit bigger of a stretch. Maybe Victoria, if you wouldn't mind adding some of these links into the chat for us, that'd be fantastic if you would. Project Budburst. This is really great. It's got several pollinator projects. You can participate just a single time with some milkweed reporting, or you can report multiple times. There is also a free app that you can put on your Android or your iPhone in order to use the camera feature, because it is using photos and that locator tag on the photos for the project. And again, it maps it. If you're part of the project, you'll be able to see where the other sightings, there's going to be a lot of data there for you. Another project that I've done with students, this was done up at Weekliak elementary school in Green Bay area schools. It is, Weequahic is unfortunately been closed due to low enrollment. But no mo may, a lot of communities are participating in this. Students, second grade students at Weequahic Elementary learned about pollinators, the spring early pollinators, and why leaving our grasses to grow in and other weed species, allowing them to flourish through the month of May is so important. They worked with the principal and the facilities, the grounds and buildings folks in their very large district. And they recognize the pressure that these adults in the school district are to make things look nice and tidy. So they designated a small area to allow it to be unmowed. And they found that by doing insect sweeps on a mowed area and one that was left to grow for a while, they found not only more insects in the unmowed area, but a larger variety, more diverse species of very small insects that they didn't know were there doing those important jobs of pollination. Here you'll see kids at Maple Grove Charter School again. They were evaluating their site for pollinator friendliness. And we have for you as one of the resources that these students are using and for you to use and modify it as you wish to do so. It is a habitat assessment tool that kids are looking at places that have bare open soil, water features or access to water, different species of plants that are pollinating, dead and down brush that are so important for insects, especially like our bumblebees that burrow and overwinter in those places. So once the kids have these assessments, then you have some data to begin the conversation, right? How could we improve our score of the site? How do we make our space more friendly for native pollinators based on the data of what we have here? And I'll show you in a little bit on what some of the schools have done. So a little bit of a reach higher, some other projects as we learn about the importance of those native species, in particular solitary bees like mason bees and leaf cutter bees or bumblebees. One of the schools that I was working with, Lincoln Avenue School in the Milwaukee public school system. And you can see this was shortly after return to school from the pandemic. We were learning about mason bees and the importance of these solitary bees. And we collected a few low-cost materials. I got some cinder blocks from Habitat Restore. I got some old drawers and I upended them so that the pole part of the drawer was the roofing, and students rolled up some tubes with some parchment paper, and we stuffed those cinder blocks with tubes, and we put in some loose material like pine cones and branches that we had collected, and a variety of other resources for habitat. If not for pollinators, then I'm certain that some other beneficial insects or spiders found some refuge in these mason bee hotels as well. Now, should you find the pupa, then that's the neat thing to be able to do, is to collect them and keep them cold over the winter, and bring them out for emergence in the spring. That's kind of a neat thing that I'm hoping to do with the kids at Maple Grove this spring. Collecting milkweed. Milkweed is one of those plants that does fairly well in most habitats that even get a little bit of sunlight. It does not do well with pesticide, however, but you will find it out and about. And once you teach kids how to identify it, it's very identifiable, particularly in the early fall or late summer when the kids come back to school. So finding where those stands of milkweed are in the fall, and harvesting some, not all, right? You never take all of the seeds, leave some there, bring those in, and then you can have a project where students learn about cold stratification in Ziploc bags with moist paper towels in the refrigerator, or they can go to this method of cold stratifying in the winter in milk jug containers. And we found both methods work very well. And those milkweed plants they're actually fairly easy to grow if given the opportunity. And so like when I'm with students, I would recommend that your pollinator study, begin that right away in the fall, come back to it again in the spring with those early pollinators, like the bumblebees and the mason bees that are out and about as well. Something that, now I just put these in order of how I think they're a little more complicated or resource intensive or time intensive. You might find some of these that I have located here maybe fairly easy. So one of the projects that I did with students at Maple Grove Charter School was planning out square foot gardens so that each kid would have a space to plant, and care for when they were there during the school years. So we learned about this link has plans in here on how plants, pollinator plants. We did natives that you can see some of them are planted out front here. Now, granted, there are some annuals and some other perennials that would not be considered native plant species. We had some adults that did some care for this, and they put these plants in there, and the color will maybe attract native pollinators. So it's okay. I'm not a purist. You can blend things a little bit in terms of my sense of a pollinator patch. But the kids learned about the bloom cycles, phenology, reading those packets from the websites, the catalogs, what kinds of plants attract butterflies, bees, which ones are resistant to deer. So they made some decisions and came up with a design plan for their pollinator patch. And in their vegetable garden, they commingled plants and flowers and herbs that would also draw in the pollinators so that they would be friendly to the vegetable plants, annual vegetables that they put in there as well. And you can see that later this fall that these plants actually after year one did fairly well, and we can see the kids are investigating and collecting some of the pollinators and making observations. That those first few weeks back to school are magic for like seeing all of the different pollinators that are on a single plant and noticing that they're not all bees, and all bees are not the same bee. upon closer inspection, and also getting kids out of that freak out phase of what they think a bee is. They're thinking more of like a yellow jacket, which are, I cannot say enough negative things about a yellow jacket. I'm sure I'm sure there are good things, but not the ones I want to encounter with students. Um, and then, of course, using iNaturalist. I know a lot of us have used that for our own fun and for studies. It Don't forget to come back to iNaturalist as an a tool for students and for adults in mapping and helping contribute to that science community on the type of pollinators that you're seeing out in your community and while you are enjoying nature together. And then some of the other projects, this is Chain Exploration Center, charter school in the Wapaka School District. And the students and teachers here in grades 3 and 4 learned about native pollinators. They did the habitat assessment that you received the link for, and the kids were in groups. They evaluated different sites around the school property, and they determined that this was the site. It's against their school building. It is south facing. There are some shade trees casting some shade in the area. So they had to select plants that were like partially sunny situation. And again, it's the watering and being able to provide water to those plantings and to keep the soil moist also was part of that decision making. And through this, they created another outdoor learning space for themselves while doing great things for local pollinators and being able to continue their studies. So this is just a plug and advertisement for the Journey North Pollinator Patch program of, if you scan the code, you'll jump straight to the project and you'll be able to begin contributing right away. The Great Sunflower Project is its own project, and it is just that, growing sunflowers on your property or your school site, and reporting on the sunflower, or reporting on the pollinators that you see visiting these sunflowers. And again, so many opportunities there to learn about plant life cycle, seed collection, all those benefits that those seeds provide to birds, as well as the flowers while during pollination. And then if you really want to get the ladder out and move to something that's more intensive, takes more property or time, is the Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA for universities and colleges. Some of you, I'm sure you've heard of Tree City USA or Bird City USA. This is something I'm really interested in. I think it would be a great project, in particular for middle school and high schools, to get involved in, to have your community be designated as a Bee City USA. And probably if you've done in either Tree City or Bird City, a lot of the groundwork is probably done for you already from that process. So I invite you to take a look at that. I think that could be a wonderful thing for a community to do. And I cannot state how wonderful it is for kids to not only plant a prairie, or pollinator patch, but to actually plant a prairie. And Brittany Hager is on this call, and I know she's been involved in a couple of those big projects like that, as has Victoria. And just learning about what that prairie can do in terms of wildlife and carbon sequestration, and just being part of something that starts from bare soil to growing into a beautiful, vibrant prairie is amazing. It's like watching the kids grow. And here we have all of the kids in Maple Grove Charter School. Every single one worked with this gentleman, Harold Ehrenreich. And Harold he's kind of like the Miss Rumphius, but he's a little broader with his planting of all kinds of prairie plants. And he spent the day with us along with his wife, and the kids were spreading sand mixed with prairie seed mixes. So we're very hopeful that some of these will take root over the winter, and in the next few years we'll see what germinates and grows here on the Maple Grove Prairie. Another school that is made some major accomplishments with pollinator projects, Leap Elementary, which is in Lebanon, Wisconsin, part of the Watertown Unified School District. They have created a learning space of 2,800 square feet of native plant species, and it has been just a wonderful experience going through all of these, scientific processes of predicting, observing, measuring, all of that. And to have this place for observing change of seasons and just a quiet place for kids to be and be out in nature cannot be underestimated in its value. Now, we all know you can't go it alone, and I certainly can't. I am by no means an expert in pollinators, but what I am is I am the lead learner when I'm working with teachers and kids, right? So I am right there. I'm very transparent with my learning process. I will fully admit that I don't know what I don't know, and there's some things I know that I don't know. So I look for experts, and places that I found really helpful are the Wild Ones, which the headquarters is right down the road from where I live here. And there are multiple local chapters throughout Wisconsin. So Central Wisconsin Wild Ones donated 160 plants last year that they started in their greenhouse in Stevens Point and gave to the students of Maple Grove to start their pollinator gardens. Master Gardeners they have multiple chapters. I connected with the North Central Wisconsin Master Gardeners, and they are coming to Maple Grove this Friday. They have over 100 1-gallon jugs. They're bringing soil that was donated by a local garden center and seeds that have been donated. And our students are going to cold stratify through the winter sowing method 5 different prairie species that are suitable for pollinators. Pheasants Forever, that should have an S on the end of it. I'm sorry about that. Pheasants Forever, sometimes they will donate bought seed mixes because part of their mission is improving habitat. That may be an area to go to. I'm also been told that Pheasants Forever do prairie burns as fundraisers for their organizations, so that they find that better than doing banquets in some cases. So another group to hook up with, as our other conservation and sporting groups, that are very interested in getting young learners into the outdoors and part of conservation and wildlife habitat management. And then Maple Grove has a local orchard nearby, and we've made friends with them, and they are going to be teaching us about selecting flowering plants that are going to grow hopefully some lovely fruit down the road, but also be a source of nectar for pollinating species. And then I've also included the USDA, the NRCS office. These folks, they may come out to do some soil sampling and teach your kids about soil and water conservation, or the land and water conservation department at your county extension. Those are good people to make friends with. That they very often will come out if their schedule permits to work with kids outside on properties. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin, who have grants available for educators for projects like pollinator patches, prairie planting, other, and not limited just to pollinators. And not only do they sometimes have funds available, they have the background. So if you're looking for someone who's an expert, give Caitlin Williamson a call, and she may know who you can reach out to in the state, because they're very, very, very well connected. And I'm sure you have your favorite experts and resources to go to as well. Prairie Moon and Prairie Nursery are two of my favorite places to go to for prairie seeds, as well as for plugs for plant. If you've got a small area you're planting, sometimes the plugs are just more likely to survive, and you don't have to wait so long for them to develop into blooms. They are great in terms of, you can call them up and request catalogs. They will send an entire box of these catalogs, which are excellent teaching tools in and of themselves, where kids can learn about the heights of the plants, when they bloom, what color they'll be. Are they do they attract butterflies or bees? Are they deer resistant, or do they prefer what kind of light and soil conditions? So there's all kinds of conversations that can go into the planning as you research the site and where you would like to install these plants. So here's an example of what would come off the page in one of these particular catalogs. And their websites, their online catalogs, they work really well too. However, I like the catalogs because you can do some cutting and make some posters with what your plans will look like. A little bit easier for younger learners to visualize. Another source that I really loved used to be a black and white one, but I really like this full color one on furry plants and their heights, and then getting kids and even the adults like that wow factor of how deep these roots go into the ground. Like what you see on top is nothing compared to what lies beneath, right? And thinking about all those ecosystem services that these pollinator friendly plants provide in holding carbon, holding our soils, holding water in place. So you can't study the pollinator without studying its habitat. And this is some Field Adventures and DPI. We put together some really great PD but there are others that are doing some wonderful professional development. And one that I attended a couple of years back with Melissa and Lisa pictured here with me was this one was in Madison a couple of years ago, the Monarch Joint Venture, which came together as part of the North American Monarch Institute, and it is fantastic. There's one coming up this summer. It's $75 and you get all kinds of resources. You get a curriculum guide for monarchs and more, some really great posters, you get some observation tools, and it's just like come with a big book bag because you're going to leave with not only a lot of really great ideas, but really great stuff that you'll be able to take back to your classroom.
So before there were schoolyard explorations, there were story adventures, and two of those are connected to pollinators. Um, One of them is the Monarch's Gift, and the other is Mr. McGinty's Monarchs. Story adventures were a project that Field Adventures worked on during the pandemic to bring stories read by the authors into the classroom, and along with them, some activities that you can do that to connect to that topic and to explore it. So I'll show you how you can access those in just a second. I'll tell you, if any of you are thinking of being a child book or author, there is a gaping hole that you can fill, and that is in other pollinators besides bees. So, and if any of you know of books that are good at exploring those other pollinators, let me know. I got a couple of goodies but oldies on this page. The Reason for a Flower is a wonderful introduction to pollination and why there are flowers and why there are pollinators. And the Magic School Bus is also just, I don't know. I hope kids still read the Magic School Bus. It's a great stories. With preschoolers and young children, I like the book Are You a Bee? That helps them to understand or connect with the life cycle. And a couple of others here too that are some of my favorites. EEK has some resources that you can use in your classroom with your students, and we're trying to collect those in a pollinators and plants collection, and I will take you there. Hopefully this will work. This collection of pollinators and plants includes pollinator plants, and I'm hoping I can go to those, and also some of the pollinators. It is a beginning collection and hopefully will continue to grow. And I would love to have your feedback on what you would like to see on this kind of a page. I'm going to try going to one of the flowers and see if it'll let me go there directly. So on each page, just a kind of a description of what the plant looks like and different parts of it, where you can find them and who visits them, why they're important. And then for pollinators, similar things, information about the pollinator itself, how it fits into the animal kingdom, and which kinds of plants it's attracted to.
Well, I just thank you all for spending the hour with us. And if you have other ideas or things that you've used, reach out, let us know. And if there's something you're looking for in terms of a schoolyard exploration, let us know. We want to help teachers and environmental educators get the learning outside on school grounds.